I was happy, successful, and in love with Amanda. After 8 perfect months together, I proposed in Hawaii and started planning our future. I never imagined the woman I wanted to marry would betray me so deeply. I had purchased a small house for my retired parents, who struggled financially after Dad's heart problems. Everything seemed perfect until I discovered Amanda's shocking secret plan to evict my parents, claiming ownership of my house. Before I tell you this heartbreaking story, let me know where you're watching from, and hit like if you believe family loyalty should always come first. I am Darrell, a 32-year-old software engineer, working for a major tech company in Seattle. I have been blessed with a good career that allowed me to build financial stability by my late 20s. I am the only child of my parents, Robert and Nancy, who spent their entire lives working middle-class jobs to provide for me and give me opportunities they never had. 3 years ago, my father suffered a major heart attack that required triple bypass surgery. The medical bills piled up quickly, even with insurance coverage. My mother had to quit her part-time job at the local library to become his full-time caregiver. Their retirement savings took a significant hit, and their modest pension barely covered their basic needs. I had purchased my first house 2 years before my father's health crisis. It was nothing fancy, just a small, 3-bedroom ranch-style home in a quiet suburban neighborhood about 20 minutes outside the city. When I saw my parents struggling, I made what seemed like an obvious decision. I offered them my house to live in rent-free, while I moved into a downtown apartment closer to my office. My parents initially refused, saying they did not want to be a burden, but I insisted this was the best solution for everyone. The house was paid off in a neighborhood with good medical facilities nearby, and had no stairs, which was perfect for my father's recovery. Eventually, they accepted my offer, and seeing them settled and secure brought me enormous relief. My downtown apartment was smaller, but modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. It was in a luxury high-rise with amenities that suited my bachelor lifestyle, including a gym, rooftop pool, and easy walking distance to work. Life was going well professionally, and I felt good knowing my parents were taken care of. I met Amanda at a tech conference where she was representing her investment firm that specialized in funding startups. She was intelligent, ambitious, and possessed a quick wit that kept me on my toes. With her sleek, dark hair, confident stride, and sharp business attire, she commanded attention in any room. But what really drew me to her was how she listened when I spoke as if my words truly mattered. Our first date lasted 5 hours at a small Italian restaurant. We talked about everything from our career ambitions to favorite childhood memories. She told me about growing up in Chicago with her sister moving across the country for college, and her dreams of eventually running her own investment company. I shared stories about my family, my passion for coding, and my hopes to eventually develop software that could help people like my father manage their health better. The first 8 months of our relationship were nothing short of magical. We spent weekends exploring hidden gems around the city, took a spontaneous road trip to Portland, and had countless nights staying up late talking about our hopes and dreams. Amanda was ambitious and driven, qualities I greatly admired. We both valued hard work and financial responsibility, which made us feel like a perfect match. When I took Amanda to meet my parents for the first time, she charmed them completely. She brought my mother a beautiful orchid plant and spent time looking through old photo albums with her. She sat patiently with my father, discussing his favorite baseball team, even though I knew she had little interest in sports. On the drive back to the city, she commented on how sweet my parents were and how nice the house looked. I remember feeling so relieved that the 2 most important parts of my life seemed to mesh so well. By our 8th month together, I knew Amanda was the one. I planned a surprise trip to Hawaii, where I proposed on the beach at sunset, with a diamond ring I had carefully selected with the help of her best friend. When she said yes, her eyes filling with tears of joy, I felt like the luckiest man alive. We spent the rest of our vacation dreaming about our future together, discussing where we might live, how many children we might have, and the adventures we would share. After returning from Hawaii, we began planning our wedding for the following spring. Amanda wanted a sophisticated ceremony at an upscale hotel downtown, while I was more focused on who would be there rather than the venue itself. We compromised on a mid-size wedding with about 100 guests at a beautiful garden venue just outside the city. Everything seemed to be falling into place, and I genuinely believed we were building the foundation for a lifetime of happiness together. About 3 months after our engagement, I began noticing subtle changes in Amanda's behavior. She started bringing up real estate investments frequently during our conversations, discussing property values and market trends in different neighborhoods, including the one where my parents lived. One evening over dinner at her favorite French bistro, Amanda casually mentioned that the housing market was booming in my parents' neighborhood. She pulled out her phone and showed me similar houses in the area that had recently sold for nearly twice what I had paid just a few years earlier. I nodded politely, not thinking much of it until she said, "You know your house is sitting on a gold mine. If you sold it now, you could make an incredible profit that we could reinvest in our future. Maybe even buy 2 properties with the proceeds." I nearly choked on my wine. That is my parents' home now. They are settled and comfortable there. Amanda's perfectly shaped eyebrows furrowed slightly. I understand that, but they could find somewhere else just as comfortable. This is a financial opportunity that might not come around again. We should be thinking about building our wealth for our future family. When I firmly stated that moving my parents was not an option, especially with my father's health conditions, Amanda seemed irritated but quickly composed herself. "Of course I understand. I was just thinking about our future. No pressure." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand, changing the subject to wedding plans. I brushed off the conversation as Amanda simply being the savvy financial mind she was. After all, her career was built on identifying good investments. But the seed of unease had been planted in my mind. A few weeks later, I received an unusual call from my mother. She sounded hesitant, which was uncharacteristic for her direct personality. "Darrell, honey, is everything okay with Amanda? She has been stopping by the house frequently when you are at work." This caught me off guard. "What do you mean I did not know she was visiting you?" "Well, at first we thought it was nice that she wanted to build a relationship with us. But lately she has been asking strange questions about the house. She walks around measuring rooms and taking pictures. Yesterday she asked if we had considered moving to a retirement community. It made your father quite upset." My stomach tightened. "I am sorry, Mom. I will talk to her. I am sure there is a reasonable explanation." When I confronted Amanda that evening, she laughed it off. "Your mom misunderstood. I was just getting ideas for our future home. And I mentioned retirement communities because I saw a beautiful new one being built nearby with amazing amenities. I thought they might enjoy having activities and people their own age around. That is all." Her explanation seemed plausible, but something still felt off. I decided to pay closer attention going forward. A week later, I came home early from work with a migraine and found Amanda in our bedroom, looking through my desk drawer, where I kept important documents, including the paperwork for my parents' house. "What are you doing?" I asked, startling her. She quickly closed the drawer. "Oh, you scared me. I was looking for our insurance paperwork. Remember we talked about combining our policies?" She approached and placed her hand on my forehead. "You look pale. Let me get you some pain medicine." I nodded, too distracted by the pounding in my head to question her further, though I did not recall any conversation about insurance policies. The following weekend, Amanda mentioned that her sister Stephanie was moving to our city after finalizing her divorce. "She is really struggling right now and needs a fresh start. Would you mind if she stayed with us temporarily until she finds her own place?" I had only met Stephanie twice and found her somewhat cold and calculating, unlike Amanda's warm personality. Our apartment was also barely big enough for the two of us, with my home office taking up the second bedroom. Where would she sleep? "We do not have the space." Amanda bit her lip, looking disappointed. "I guess you are right. I will help her find an affordable apartment." She sighed heavily, making me feel guilty even though my concerns were practical. Over the next few weeks, Stephanie arrived in town and would often be at our apartment when I came home from work. The sisters would be huddled together, speaking in hushed tones, and would abruptly change the subject when I entered the room. Once I overheard Amanda saying, "He does not need to know yet. We will figure it out." When I asked what they were discussing, Amanda claimed they were planning a surprise for my upcoming birthday, but her smile did not quite reach her eyes. The uncomfortable feeling in my gut grew stronger, but I pushed it aside, telling myself I was being paranoid. Everything changed on a Tuesday afternoon when I received a panicked call from my father. His voice shook as he spoke, something I had never heard from this stoic man who had faced countless hardships with quiet dignity. "Son, someone just delivered papers saying we have to vacate the house in 30 days. They say we are not the legal owners anymore. Is this some kind of mistake?" My blood ran cold. "What? That is impossible." "Do not worry, Dad. I will be right over." I left work immediately, calling my boss from the car to explain the family emergency. The 20-minute drive to my parents' house felt like hours as my mind raced through possibilities. A scam, a clerical error. Nothing made sense. When I arrived, I found my mother sitting at the kitchen table, hands trembling as she held a cup of tea. My father paced the living room, the official-looking document clutched in his hand. "Let me see that," I said, trying to keep my voice calm despite the panic rising in my chest. The document appeared legitimate at first glance, printed on legal paper with official stamps and signatures. It claimed to be a notice to vacate, stating that the property had changed ownership and the current occupants, referred to as tenants, needed to leave within 30 days. What shocked me most was seeing Amanda's name listed as the new property owner. "This has to be a mistake," I assured my parents, though doubt gnawed at me. "The house is in my name. It cannot be sold without my signature." I pulled out my phone and checked my bank accounts. All seemed normal, with no unusual transactions. Next, I called my lawyer, who agreed to look into the matter immediately. While waiting for my lawyer's call back, I drove to the county clerk's office mentioned in the document. The clerk confirmed that a deed transfer had indeed been processed, recently changing ownership from me to Amanda Wilson. When I explained there must be a mistake, she pulled up the document on her computer. "Here it is. Signed by both parties and notarized 2 weeks ago," she said, turning the screen toward me. I stared in disbelief at what appeared to be my signature on the document, though I had absolutely no recollection of ever signing such a thing. The signature looked convincingly like mine, but I knew with complete certainty that I had never agreed to transfer my house to Amanda or anyone else. "This is fraud," I said firmly. "I never signed this document." The clerk looked uncomfortable. "I suggest you contact law enforcement and a lawyer if you believe fraud has occurred. I can only confirm what is in our official records." On the drive home, my lawyer called back with disturbing news. He had made some inquiries and discovered that the notary who had verified the signatures worked at a bank where Amanda had connections through her investment firm. This raised serious red flags about potential collusion. I hired a private investigator that same day, paying a rush fee to get immediate results. The investigator moved quickly, leveraging contacts in banking and real estate to piece together what had happened. Within 48 hours, he reported back with damning evidence. Amanda had indeed orchestrated an elaborate scheme. She had used her relationship with a bank employee to create fraudulent documents. My signature had been forged, likely copied from other documents I had signed during our relationship. The investigator also discovered that Amanda had already listed the house with a real estate agent, with viewings scheduled to begin immediately after my parents' move-out date. But the final betrayal came when the investigator showed me text messages he had obtained between Amanda and Stephanie, discussing their plan in detail. Amanda had promised her sister she could move into their new investment property once my parents were gone. They had calculated the potential profit from selling the house and discussed how to split it between them. What hurt most were the callous words Amanda had used to describe my parents. "Those old people are sitting on prime real estate they do not even own. They are just a roadblock to our future. Darrell is too emotionally attached to see clearly, but once they are out, he will realize this was for the best." I sat in my car for nearly an hour after meeting with the investigator, feeling physically ill. The woman I had trusted completely who I had planned to build a life with, had not only betrayed me, but had actively plotted to remove my vulnerable parents from their home for financial gain. The calculated nature of her deception was almost impossible to comprehend. That night, I did not return to our apartment. I could not bear to face Amanda until I had processed what I had learned and decided how to respond. I checked into a hotel and spent a sleepless night reviewing the evidence and planning my next steps. By morning, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I called Amanda the next day, keeping my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. "We need to talk. Can you meet me at the house this evening? I have something important to discuss." "Of course, honey," she replied sweetly. "Everything okay? You did not come home last night. We will talk about it when I see you," I said, ending the call before my anger could betray me. I spent the day preparing, gathering all the evidence, and consulting with my lawyer about how to protect myself and my parents. I recorded a phone conversation with the notary, who admitted under pressure that she had never actually witnessed me sign the document. I also secured written statements from the county clerk and my private investigator. When Amanda arrived at my parents' house that evening, I had asked them to stay with a neighbor so they would not have to witness the confrontation. She entered with a bright smile that faded when she saw the serious expression on my face and the documents spread across the dining room table. "What is all this?" she asked, her eyes darting nervously between the papers and my face. I slid the eviction notice toward her. "I thought you might be able to explain why my parents received this." She picked it up, frowning, as if seeing it for the first time. "I have no idea what this is. Where did it come from?" "Really? That is strange, since it has your name on it as the new owner of this house. A house I never sold to you." Amanda's face paled slightly, but she recovered quickly. "There must be some mistake. I would never do something like this." "No mistake, Amanda. I have been to the county clerk's office. I have seen the forged documents with my signature. I have spoken to the notary, who has admitted she never saw me sign anything." Her demeanor changed instantly. The sweet, loving fiancée disappeared, replaced by someone cold and calculating. "Stephanie must have done this behind my back." "I had no idea, Darrell. I swear." "Strange, because I have seen your text messages with her discussing this plan in detail. How you would evict my parents, move her in temporarily, then sell the house for a profit. How you called my parents a roadblock to our future." Amanda's eyes hardened. "Fine. Yes, I initiated the transfer, but you are blowing this out of proportion. I was doing this for us, for our future. Your parents are draining our potential with this arrangement. They could live somewhere more modest, while we use this asset to build our wealth." I could hardly believe what I was hearing. "This house was never yours to take. These are my parents you are talking about, the people who raised me, who sacrificed everything for me." "That is the problem, Darrell," she snapped. "You are too attached to them. A man your age should be focused on his own family, his future, not supporting his parents in a house that could be liquidated for our benefit. I was just making the hard decision you were too weak to make." Her words felt like physical blows. This woman who had claimed to love me was now revealing her true character, one that viewed my dedication to family as weakness and my parents as obstacles. "The decision was never yours to make," I said quietly. "And now I am making a decision of my own. The engagement is over, Amanda. I want nothing more to do with you." Her expression shifted from anger to disbelief. "You cannot be serious. You are throwing away everything we have over this." "I was trying to secure our financial future." "No, you were committing fraud and attempting to make my parents homeless for your own gain." "I can fix this," she pleaded suddenly, realizing the severity of the situation. "We can tear up the documents. No one has to know. Your parents can stay. Just give me another chance." I shook my head. "There is no fixing a betrayal of this magnitude. I could never trust you again, and I certainly would never build a life with someone who would treat my family this way." Amanda's tactics shifted rapidly, moving from anger to pleading to threats. "If you do this, I will tell everyone it was your idea. No one will believe you over me. Think about your reputation. I placed a small digital recorder on the table between us. I have been recording this entire conversation with my lawyer's advice. You have admitted to fraud, forgery, and attempted property theft. If you try to harm my reputation or contact my family again, this goes to the police. Her face contorted with rage. You would not dare. Try me, I said, surprised by the steadiness of my own voice. Now I want your keys to my apartment, and I expect all your things to be gone within 3 days. My lawyer will be in touch about annulling any legal claim you think you have to my property. For a moment I thought she might physically lash out, but instead she yanked her engagement ring off and threw it across the room. Keep your pathetic ring and your precious parents. You will regret this, Darrell. The only thing I regret is not seeing your true character sooner, I replied as she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sat alone in the sudden silence, feeling a complex mix of heartbreak, anger, and strangely relief. The woman I had loved had never really existed. Now I needed to protect myself and my family from the woman she truly was. The days following my confrontation with Amanda were a whirlwind of legal and practical actions. My first priority was securing my parents' home and peace of mind. I met with my lawyer the very next morning to begin the process of invalidating the fraudulent deed transfer. We filed an emergency injunction to prevent any potential sale of the property while the investigation continued. The county recorder was surprisingly helpful once I presented evidence of the forgery, placing a freeze on the property records until the matter could be legally resolved. My lawyer also sent a cease and desist letter to Amanda and the real estate agent she had contacted, warning of legal consequences if they proceeded with any attempts to sell the house. I changed the locks on my apartment and arranged for a friend to be present when Amanda came to collect her belongings. I had already removed anything of value or importance to me, as I did not trust her not to take or damage my possessions out of spite. When she arrived, she was cold and businesslike, refusing to speak except through her friend who accompanied her. After Amanda removed her things from my apartment, I blocked her number and all social media connections. I instructed my parents to do the same and to call the police immediately if either Amanda or Stephanie showed up at their house. I installed a security system with cameras for their peace of mind and mine. I filed a police report detailing the forgery and fraud, providing all the evidence my investigator had gathered. The detective assigned to the case warned me that prosecuting such cases could be difficult without clear evidence of who physically created the forged documents, but they would investigate thoroughly. The next challenge came in the form of explaining the sudden end of our engagement to friends and family. I had already sent out save-the-date cards, and our wedding website was live with registry information. Rather than letting Amanda control the narrative, I sent a brief factual email to close friends and family, explaining that the wedding was canceled due to irreconcilable differences and breach of trust discovered during wedding planning. Some mutual friends were skeptical of the vague explanation, and I soon learned Amanda was telling people I had cheated on her. When confronted directly by a close friend, I shared just enough details of the truth to set the record straight without turning it into a public scandal. Most people who truly knew me realized her story did not add up. Despite my best efforts to move on, Amanda continued attempting to contact me through mutual friends and even colleagues. She alternated between angry accusations and tearful pleas for reconciliation. Each message reinforced my decision to end our relationship, as her concern seemed focused on what she had lost, rather than any genuine remorse for what she had done. The emotional aftermath was more difficult than I had anticipated. There were nights I would wake up in a cold sweat, my mind replaying warning signs I had missed. I questioned my judgment and ability to trust. How could I have been so blind to her true character? What did it say about me that I had chosen someone capable of such deception? My mother, sensing my struggle, encouraged me to speak with a therapist. Initially resistant, I eventually agreed and found it helpful to process my feelings with a neutral professional. The therapist helped me understand that manipulative people are often skilled at presenting exactly what their targets want to see, and that my trusting nature was not a flaw to be corrected, but a quality to be protected with better boundaries. Through therapy, I began to recognize that Amanda had shown subtle warning signs throughout our relationship. Her dismissive comments about certain friends, her impatience with my parents' old-fashioned ways, her constant focus on status and appearances, these were all glimpses of her true character that I had rationalized away because I wanted to believe in the relationship we were building. The legal process dragged on for several months, but eventually the fraudulent deed was invalidated, and my ownership of the house was legally reaffirmed. The police investigation stalled due to insufficient evidence for criminal charges, as Amanda maintained that the signature discrepancies were mere clerical errors and that she had believed I had authorized the transfer verbally. While disappointed by the lack of legal consequences for Amanda, I found closure in knowing my parents were secure in their home and that I had escaped building a life with someone who viewed family commitments as obstacles to personal gain. As the one-year anniversary of my broken engagement approached, I realized how much my life had changed, mostly for the better. The initial pain and anger had faded, replaced by valuable lessons and a renewed appreciation for what truly mattered in life. I had decided to sell my downtown apartment, which held too many memories of Amanda and the life we had planned. Instead, I purchased a larger home in a neighborhood just 10 minutes from my parents. The new house had a beautiful in-law suite with its own entrance kitchenette and small living area where my parents could maintain their independence while being close enough for me to help when needed. After much convincing, they agreed to sell the first house and move into the suite. The arrangement gave all of us peace of mind and strengthened our relationship as we spent more quality time together. Sunday dinners became a weekly tradition, often with friends joining us for my mother's famous pot roast and my father's entertaining stories from his years as a high school coach. My experience with Amanda had made me more cautious in relationships but not bitter. 6 months after the breakup, I met Jessica at a volunteer event building houses for veterans. Unlike Amanda's polished corporate persona, Jessica was authentically herself from our first meeting, wearing work boots and covered in paint as she meticulously finished a bedroom for a disabled veteran. Our relationship developed slowly, built on genuine conversations and shared values, rather than whirlwind romance. When I finally told her the full story of my broken engagement, her reaction told me everything I needed to know about her character. "What a gift," she said thoughtfully. Confused, I asked her to explain. "You discovered who she truly was before you married her, before you had children together, before your lives became permanently intertwined." As painful as it was, that discovery was a gift. When Jessica met my parents, she connected with them, effortlessly spending hours in the garden with my mother and listening attentively to my father's medical concerns, as a nurse practitioner offering practical advice without overstepping. She never viewed them as burdens or obstacles, but as integral parts of my life to be embraced. The experience with Amanda taught me to evaluate relationships based on core values rather than surface compatibility or momentary feelings. I learned to look for authenticity in how someone treats service workers, speaks about absent friends, handles minor frustrations, and respects family bonds. These seemingly small indicators reveal character far more accurately than grand gestures or passionate declarations. I came to understand that my intuition had been sending warning signals about Amanda that I had consciously ignored. That uncomfortable feeling in my gut when she dismissed my parents' needs was wisdom trying to break through my emotional defenses. I promised myself to never again disregard those internal warnings. Perhaps the most surprising outcome was that I no longer harbored anger toward Amanda. I had reached a place of genuine gratitude for the harsh but necessary lesson her betrayal had taught me. Without that painful experience, I might never have recognized the importance of aligning with someone whose values truly matched my own. The house that Amanda had tried to steal from my family became the catalyst for creating something better than what I had before, a lesson in how loss often precedes growth. My relationship with my parents deepened as we navigated the crisis together, and I gained a clearer understanding of what I truly valued in life and in potential partners. I sometimes wonder what might have happened if I had discovered Amanda's true nature after marriage, perhaps when my parents needed even more support, or when we had children whose futures she might have prioritized differently than I would. The timing of her revelation, though painful, was ultimately fortunate. The greatest lesson I learned is that standing firm in your core values may cost you relationships, opportunities, and temporary comfort, but it preserves the foundation of who you are. When faced with difficult choices between what seems expedient and what feels right, choosing integrity might feel lonely in the moment, but leads to the authentic connections we truly need. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever discovered someone's true character just in time? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Share this video with someone who might be ignoring red flags in a relationship. Thank you for listening. And remember that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most beautiful beginnings.